Right, it's telling me it's preparing to share the meeting. Oh, come on.
Oh, something's happening.
Yeah. Okay. And then I don't want that on this machine. It's telling me. Right. Okay. So I'm going to get horrible feedback. I've managed to close that tab. Right. Okay. So it is 12 o'clock. And so welcome to the first episode of the Dr. Tech Show. And being highly professional, I'm going to now try to play the theme music. And I can't. I will try. Yeah. So this is not at all professional. I am. Anyway, so this is going well so far.
It's worth hearing.
I'll tell you what, I might not bother. Anyway, let's go on. I might bring it in later on if if I can find it, because I tried to play it from Google Drive and it didn't work. Mm-hmm. So anyway, welcome to the first edition of the Dr. Tech Show. I'm John Popham, and is this working? Yes, it's working. Yeah. I'm John Popham, and this is just a bit of an experiment, really. We've started up to try to get to reach out to people who are not online and to see if we can help them to get online during this coronavirus crisis. I've been doing this kind of work for years and years now, working with particularly older people to try to turn them on to new technologies. And of course, one of the big problems that we have is how do we reach out to people who are not digital if we've only got digital means at our to deploy. But we're going to experiment with this. We're probably not going to get very much interaction with this today, but hopefully at some point we're going to get people calling in so that we can help them with their tech issues. So if you want to get in, there's a number on the screen that you can call to get in, but actually the preferable way to get in would be if you could drop us a message either on my social media channels or on Sweyn or Pauline's social media channels or in the comment box on YouTube. If you want to get in, send us a message and we'll get the Zoom link so you can join in this meeting. And I'm very pleased today to be joined by Pauline, Roche and Sweyn Hunter, who are helping us out with this. So guys, do you want to introduce yourself? Start with you, Pauline.
Hi, I'm Pauline Roche. I'm the editor of a newsletter called Digital WM News. I run this tiny social enterprise in the West Midlands, and we help small voluntary and community organizations to get their heads around digital and data, and we do some operational and strategic development matters as well. So everything that can be done really to help small charities work better, make better decisions using data, hopefully.
And Sweyn?
Hi, I'm Sweyn Hunter from Orkney. That's the islands off the far north coast of Scotland. I work for the local authority here usually, although this is a day off. And I've worked in all sorts of IT and tech over the years. And at the moment, I'm looking at how our organisation can become more digital in its approach and its services to our citizens and visitors.
Brilliant, thank you very much. I'm going to have a second attempt now to play the theme tune because it didn't work last time.
Mm-hmm.
Did that work?
It did.
Yeah, very good.
Okay, so next time I'll know how to do it.
I meant to say good morning, Sean Brady, who has commented in the YouTube chat.
Yes,
excellent.
Hi, Sean. We have 5 viewers. I suspect 3 of those are us. But,
that's not a bad start. Good morning to my friend Siobhan, who hopefully is watching and maybe coming in with a query later.
Okay, well, thank you very much for that, and it's good to see you. As I say, this is probably something that's going to build, because from day one we don't expect big numbers to be calling in. I think we might even expect no callers to be calling in, but you never know. But what we're here is by trying to establish a platform whereby anybody who's got any tech issues, and in particular people who've got tech issues, communicating while they're at home on lockdown in whatever means. Pleased to join in and to let us know. And I know you've got a few stories to tell about this, Pauline. I wanted to share something from Ashley Bayle that I picked up on Twitter, and how he got his grandmother online. Now I'm going to see if I can manage to share this screen. Right, hang on, let me just see. Right, okay, so let's see, is this going to work?
Looks good. Yes.
Right.
We can see your screen.
Can you see at the thread with Ashley Bayle?
Yes.
Okay. So I picked this up off Twitter a few days ago, and basically he posted a really good step-to-step guide of getting his grandmother online using Amazon Alexa, and particularly I think it was an Echo Show, which is the one that has a screen. And really, and he did a lot of it. Well, he did most of it remotely. In fact, he did it all remotely. And what he did a lot of the steps himself, so that his grandmother didn't have to do them.
Can you enlarge your screen, John, so we can see it a bit better?
Yeah, let's see if we can.
Control plus if it's a Windows machine, which of course it won't be.
No, it's not. It's not. Sorry.
That's much better. That's great.
That's great. That's great. Yeah. Are we sure this is coming out on YouTube, just to check?
It is. Yeah, I've got YouTube open next to me, and at the moment it's there and it's fairly small, so hopefully it will enlarge.
I've got it open, but I don't want the sound to come, so I've paused it, which doesn't really help.
Yeah. Well, of course, I'm thrashing my home broadband connection by broadcasting this Zoom and watching the YouTube at the same time. Wow. But thank you, Virgin Media. You're working at the moment, even though you've been a little bit spotty during this process. So yeah, I mean, I think it was a really good step by step, and basically a lot of it involved him at his end, Ashley at his end, setting up the Alexa app and setting up his grandmother's account, and really he's got it where his grandmother just has to talk to Alexa and say, Alexa, call Ashley, Alexa, play the radio, or Alexa, answer, or Alexa, hang up. I
think that's the most impressive thing about the whole thing, is that he's managed to do so much of it himself for his relative, his mother, I think, and it just leaves her to actually use it when it's there. It's a really, really good example.
Yes, it is.
It is. So, I mean, that's good. I mean, I think part of the issue with all these things is everybody's going to be using a different kind of device, and I've certainly been trying to find out which are the devices that need the least user intervention, really. And certainly, I think this is a good. I think devices that you talk to, rather than have to set up using computers and apps and that kind of stuff, are definitely the way forward for this kind of stuff. Particularly when you can't be there with the person to set them up. So
yeah, it reminds me of there's a TV program I was watching on iPlayer recently that did this very thing. It's set in like 2025 or something, where the family just uses Alexa to say, call family or exclude some members or whatever. So it feels like the future, but it's now.
Okay. Hi, Sean. Sean Brady is asking me for the Zoom. Sean, do you want to join in? We'd love to have you on board. If you want to join in, I can send you the Zoom invite by direct message on Twitter, if you would like that. So, and I'm not using OBS, by the way. It's just Zoom direct, broadcasting directly to YouTube. Oh, good. I've just had a WhatsApp message come through from somebody who's been Zoom bombed. Let's hope that's not an omen.
Yes.
Okay, let me find. Oops, no, I forgot I'm sharing my screen. So I want to. How do I stop sharing my screen?
There's a stop sharing button somewhere, obviously, if you.
Yeah, on the bottom there'll be share screen and then stop sharing screen. Have you got that?
It just brings up a new share. How do I stop it?
It's Alt S to share,
sorry.
is it?
Oh, you're right. Sorry, there's a red button to stop sharing. Right. Okay.
That's because it's red. Yes, I know. I'm like that.
I missed it. Okay. So Sean, I'm going to send you the Zoom invite by direct message on Twitter. Oh, and actually, it was actually the last thing I'd copied and pasted, so it worked.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, okay. So yeah, I mean, I think devices you can talk to definitely the way forward. And just to be able to say, call my friend or wherever else. So I'm just waiting to now see if Sean gets through. To have you muted yourself, Sweyn, or have I muted you?
He's muted himself.
I can hear disturbance in the background, so I'm going to go off video for a moment as well. Just see what's going on. Dogs, I think.
Oh, right. Okay.
I think this has been a great idea, John. And it's been good to have stories from people who are using digital a bit more in my newsletter, because previously it was, just kind of hints and tips and kind of things I'd got from the internet and things I knew were useful. But you can't beat real life people talking about their own experience, and people, that people can relate to. And we find this, don't we, with social media surgeries and unconferences where real people talk about real things, and everybody else can relate to them. So it feels a bit sometimes unintuitive because you're going back to the kind of the personal story, but really it does work much better. Hi, Sean.
I'm just trying to unmute him.
Hello, Sean.
Sean? Right.
Yeah, unmuted.
Okay.
Hi, Sean. Hello.
Hi, John. Good to see you again.
Good to see you.
Good to see Pauline. Good to see Sweyn. Forgive me for the pronunciation.
Absolutely 10 out of 10.
Where are you based, Sean?
I'm in a place called Formby, which is north of Liverpool.
Okay.
On the coastline.
Lovely. You look very comfortable there. Is that your armchair or your office chair?
Yeah.
Excellent.
It's one of those armchairs designed for the more elderly.
I like it.
From the ground.
Yeah. Okay. Well, very well. Welcome.
Thanks,
really good to have you on board. At the moment, we've got 4 viewers on YouTube. I expect it might be the 4 of us, but there we are. Well, anyway, Sean, would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself? Is that okay?
Yeah. I'm a 77-year-old nerd geezer. And John and I met through the Talk About Local network, which was people who were blogging or hyper-blogging. And it was picked up by William Perrin, and he initiated the whole Talk Local issue. And it was, I think he spotted me because I was a local councillor at the time, and I was using blogging as a means of keeping my electorate in touch with what I was doing, and also try and get feedback from them. And that's based on a sort of professional career involved in educational technology. And I've just kept going. Once I retired, I just concentrated on playing. And so here I am playing. So that's it, really.
Very good. Well, thank you. So you're sort of on board with all this kind of thing, Sean?
I am. I thought, well, I'll join in to support you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
But I wanted to make sure you weren't talking to yourselves.
That's good. Well, I'm quite happy to talk to ourselves for the first couple of episodes, because I think this is about establishing a precedent that we're going to be doing this.
Yeah.
I should also say that we've announced we're going to be doing this every Monday. I will be in hospital next Monday recovering from my cancer operation. So whether we're going to do it next Monday, I'm not sure. But it'd be nice to be able to do it from a hospital bed. But might be.
When's the op?
The op is scheduled to be on Thursday. I've actually got to go and see the consultant tomorrow for an examination to confirm that. but it's scheduled to be on Thursday. So by next Monday, I might be recovered enough to do it. Whether I'm presuming I'll be on an open ward. I don't know. If I'm on an open ward, whether people will be happy for me to do something like this. Saturday, I don't know. But
I don't know. Based on my experience of, for the other two, I had pancreatic cancer in December 2018, had a big operation. And they take you into what was called POCU, which is the patient's operation recovery room. And I was there, it was essentially intensive care. And I was there for a couple of days because I had a slight problem with hallucinations and God knows what else. And then I went into the next phase, which was like an intermediate room, which is where you were still getting care, but it wasn't so intensive. And then before I left, I went to an ordinary ward. But you, fingers crossed, you'll be capable, John. Most people seem to be, but in my case, I had a reaction to one of the things that was used in the anesthesiology, so that was, it caused a problem.
Yeah, I mean, of course, it'll also be dependent on connectivity, whether I can get any kind of decent connectivity where I am.
Yeah,
I love Jennifer Jones's suggestion that you bring a MiFi with you to hang out the window.
Well, I've certainly done that in the past. I've got a MiFi. The problem is I don't have any. I don't have any spare SIM cards for it, but so that's why I'm going to take two phones, so I can use one of them as a hotspot if necessary. So Sweyn, is it a friend of yours called Dennis who's talking to us on
Yes, I'm wondering,
YouTube?
Does
he want to come
Dennis
in?
Friend. Dennis, would you like to join the call in Zoom, or are you happy watching on
YouTube?
YouTube, thank you, yes. My brain's gone to mush as usual when trying to speak in sentences. If you would like a link, then just let us know in the chat and you can join like Sean has, if you wish.
So, Sean...
Or, sorry to interrupt, or if you want to call by telephone, call one of the numbers you can see on the excellent background behind John. I might ask you a few questions, though. So,
sorry, I'm just trying to move away from the other one.
Yeah, we need to redesign that slide.
I do. We'll do that for next week.
I can do Zoom. Okay. If you want to DM me in Twitter or private message me in Facebook, Dennis, I will try to notice that and bring you in, or get John to bring you in.
You can do that. You've got the link, haven't you?
I'm just covering all my bases.
So Sean, I mean, what are your friends and contemporaries like? Do you know other people who are doing the same things as you, or do they need more kind of help on these kind of things?
Predominantly my family they've all gone to WhatsApp, and they went to WhatsApp a long time ago. All my children did, and now my grandchildren are on WhatsApp. But for the purposes of meeting up as a family, I'm married into a very large Irish family. There were Anglo-Irish family, 10 children originally. Now they're down to 8, sadly. But then they're all married and they've all got grandchildren, etc. And one of my brother-in-law suggested doing a meetup, and I've forgotten how he was going to do it. He was choosing a vehicle that wasn't very useful in my view, and I'd come across Zoom. So I said, well, why not use Zoom? And it seems to me because Zoom has just become viral, hasn't it? And so now we have a regular meetup once a week on a Sunday afternoon. And we pull people in from Paris, and we pull people in from Botswana occasionally to the meetings as well. And so they're becoming increasingly competent at that. Excuse me, somebody's at the front door. I'll just have to go and answer the door. I will return.
That's fine. Well, thank you for that, Sean. They don't get this on question time, do they? People going to answer the door, or do they?
No, but I think it is what we're going to have to deal with, as we go on.
Yeah, that's fine. It's absolutely no problem. It's absolutely no problem at all. I mean, I've seen all these blogs of people writing about how to stop all these things happening. Well, they happen.
They happen.
Yeah.
And who's to know whether it happens in question time or not? It's not live.
Yeah. So the other one, the other device that I've been recommending to people, and without actually any personal experience of it myself, is Facebook Portal. Which I have recommended it to, I think, 3 different people, all of whom have had really positive experiences with it. Of just basically, I think in at least one of those occasions, I think a couple of people got them set up with it before lockdown. But I think at least one occasion they just posted it to their father who lived in a care home, and they were able to set it up there and then and get it working with very little technical knowledge. So
I'd really like to hear more about that, John, because I was having a conversation with somebody about that yesterday. So can we come back to that after we speak to Sean?
Yeah, sure.
Great.
Sure. Yeah. So Sean, sorry, you were interrupted in full flow.
By the postman, yes. He was delivering me some peckish sunflower hearts. I'm sitting in the front room, and I'm looking at an array of bird feeders, and the Russian starlings are making hay with my sunflower seeds at the expense of the gold press.
All right.
There we go. Now, okay. So what was I saying? So yeah, we're using Zoom effectively twice a week, and also when I was a councillor, I became involved with the local village business partnership. In fact, at one stage, I was the chair. And we're now working on a post-COVID recovery plan for the village, where we're all slightly worried about how many shops are going to reopen, if they are going to reopen, and how to do it, and to involve the public in it. So we're using Zoom as the vehicle for holding our meetings. And what's also interesting is our local parish council, their last meeting was also held using Zoom. And I personally think that's the way they should go, and I hope they do. Because I'm a great fan of Frome Town Council, which was the originators of what's called flat pack democracy.
Yeah.
And they're constantly involving the public, and even the public are engaged in working parties, which lots of councillors are afraid of doing. They don't want to get involved with the public. We're the people who make these decisions, you stay out. So that's the arena in which I'm interested, really. Public participation, which is why I'm interested in what John's been doing. And I've thoroughly enjoyed his Twicket series.
Long time ago now, that, Sean.
I thoroughly enjoyed it, though.
Yeah. Okay. So
what I enjoyed most about Twicket was the rained off quiz. Zoom would have been perfect for it.
Yeah. Okay. So can I welcome Dennis? Hello.
Hello, Dennis.
Hello, everyone.
Hi. Do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, Dennis?
I meet Sweyn occasionally in the odd coffee shop. But yeah, another one that lives in Orkney. Just trying to. I just saw a kind of piece that you were looking at to do something on connectivity. So I thought I'd just have a quick look in.
Okay. Well, welcome.
Okay.
What can you tell us anything about your own experiences of trying to connect with people during this time?
Well, I've been in kind of a few weeks ago. I joined up with Zoom, and I'm not the greatest at getting everyone together on Zoom. I think I've probably tripped up quite a few over some of the easier pitfalls. I've had difficulty in cancelling meetings. Sometimes it just ends up making another meeting. People, and I actually managed last week. I actually was on the meeting for the next day, and so people had joined the meeting that was supposed to be on the day, but I was on the meeting for next day. So I was kind of in the future. So right. I don't know about anyone else. I think if there's any pitfalls to find, I'll probably stumble into most of them.
Well, that's really good. I mean, we need people to snag these things, don't we?
Yeah, that's me as a snag finder, I think.
Okay, so what devices do you use to connect then Dennis?
Well, I try and keep it simple, and I use my desktop microphone and
okay.
There's no speakers. I do have a headset and things, but I try and keep it simple. I haven't tried to go by a mobile phone yet, but I guess I could try it one of these days. With a smartphone.
Okay. But you found it sort of relatively easy, given. I mean, if you've been watching so far, you will have seen that all of us have problems with these things. I've been struggling with some of the technical bits of it as we've been going through, but it's, you know, we live and learn, I think.
Learn by doing.
Definitely.
Mhm.
Good primary school adage, learn by doing.
Exactly.
Play. Children learn by play. And we're all grown-up adults, grown-up children.
Well, yeah. Well, if some of us grown up, but
Can you tell us about the last person you helped, Dennis, and what the problem was?
well, blind leading the blind, really. No. Well, I was trying to get a group of, so I managed to get a group of people on Zoom. But obviously, I was always a bit worried that they've got to download stuff before they can get on it. But I think the only person who had trouble said they had to load up Chrome, and then they were okay. So I kind of say, well, look, just click on the buttons it tells you to do, and you should be okay.
Yeah, I think that's one of the issues with Zoom. You can just join from your web browser, but it always tells you to download it before you get to that point, and you have to cancel that bit.
Yeah.
And I think it would be better if it didn't do that.
Yeah.
So
That has been talked about other places, but they don't seem to have got around to that yet.
So
Okay.
ignore the web browser. So you should tell them just to click on web browser, or not, or just ignore the web browser. Should it be to click?
No.
It depends how much that new person is going to use it. If it's literally just to be used today for this meeting, then it's probably best to say ignore the thing that says download the app and just join in the browser. But if you're hopeful that they'll get more out of it and that they'll be a bit more adventurous and have their own meetings and so on, then I suppose they should really download the app, because that's the way they can do all those things.
I suppose that's the question, really, Dennis. Are you meeting people who you think are going to be continuing on to use this facility, or is it a one-off?
Well, I've got a continuing meeting now on a Tuesday. It's a Wednesday evening, and after sort of quite a few problems, they seem to be running okay now. So and it's really when I tried to there's somebody that's completely tech how do you call it?
Averse?
Averse, that's right, yeah. And so I had a difficulty sort of trying to get them to how to use Zoom, and I think they were gonna download just the basic thing. I mean, I'm paying a monthly subscription now because I was trying to do it so I could get maybe up to 20, 30 people on, as a sort of assembly meeting, but that's in the future. But I believe it should be possible with that. But I mean, I was trying to sort of work up to that. But to say one of the persons that's got to run the assembly meeting is the tech-averse person, so it's a kind of
that's a bit of a challenge.
You'll get there.
Okay. So one of the people I recommended Facebook Portal to has just retweeted my link to the show.
Oh, excellent.
So I've asked him if he wants to join in, and I'm hoping he will.
Okay.
That's great.
I see Shirley Ayres has tweeted what we're doing as well, which is great. Shirley's a great supporter of all these civic tech initiatives.
When we did the Island GovCamp in 2012, which I wish we'd had Zoom or Teams, I really do, because that's really what we were trying to do. Anyway, it was basically a GovCamp that you could attend from wherever you were, even if you couldn't come to Orkney on the same day. Shirley and John Fox spent most of the day trying to get WebEx to work for one of the rooms, because we had a WebEx room, we had a Bamboozer room, we had what else did we have? Can't remember now, because nowadays you would just use Facebook Live and that would be it, or Zoom. But I think we more or less proved that it wasn't a very good idea to try and run an event like that with no practice. We learned that, at least.
I don't think everybody's familiar with the idea of Unconferences, Sweyn. Do you want to say a bit more about what they are?
Well, Unconferences are it's an event that's not really an event. So it's a conference with no agenda, or rather a conference where the topics that you choose to talk about are chosen on the morning of the meeting and are led by somebody who happens to be there at the time. It grew out of the habit of people at real conferences to hang out in the bar and just chat for most of the time. when some people thought that was the most valuable part of going to many conferences. So people began to arrange these meetings in the bars of actual conferences and just agree amongst themselves what they were going to talk about and just ignore the main program. Then somebody, sometime, I don't know who or when, decided, well, we could do this without actually a conference being organized. If somebody just books some rooms and some coffee, say, or a lunch, then we can have 20 to 150 or 300 people turn up, do very short pitches of sessions at the beginning, all vote and see who wants to discuss what, and then just run the rest of the day with how many rooms you've got with 6 sessions and just a chat. It sounds extremely unlikely, but it works absolutely brilliantly well as a thing.
Absolutely. I can testify to that myself, having attended some of the events that Sweyn has referenced, the UK GovCamp, but also started my own for voluntary sector support organisations, CVSs. So there's one called VCSS Camp, and several others. And actually next year, because we can't do anything more to organise this year, I'm launching one called Small Charities Camp. So for small charities to get their heads around the kind of digital and data stuff that we are familiar with, and we know how useful it is to talk to real people who've faced the same issues as we do. Sean and Dennis, have either of you attended an unconference?
Well, John and I, we first met, I don't know, about 13 years ago, the Talk About Local conferences, and they were always run on those grounds. And you're right, quite a number of sessions I sat out and just chatted or played with my computer.
Yeah.
By the way, are you familiar with Lorna Prescott on Twitter? Have you come across her from Dudley?
Yeah, Dosterson. Yeah.
Yes, Dosterson. Because if you've not, she's got this really interesting project going called Collab Dudley.
Yeah.
These things called creative conversations. Which are also done on Zoom as a platform. And they've been really interesting to watch because they're clearly, from her perspective of the Dudley CVS, it's about engaging with the community, engaging with people who are creatives or people who are interested in that particular feature of aspect of life in Dudley. I come from that part of the world. So, I'm an avid fan of Lorna because I think she's, again, right at the front of some really interesting work that's going on.
Absolutely. She was one of the co-founders of VCSS Camp with me. So I have a lot of time for Lorna.
Yeah.
She was one of the first people I got to know well through Twitter as opposed to in real life. And now I have her as a friend. And we have known each other for many years through the Impact Hub in Birmingham. And of course, now the wonderful work that she does in Dudley.
Yeah. Yes, I'm hugely disappointed about the demise of the Impact Hub in Birmingham. I went, and that's where I met her very, very briefly, just on the corridor between various sessions.
I've heard of the Impact Hub, but not sure. I think was Nat and Julia Higginbottom not involved with that as well?
They were, yeah, and they helped us with the close down. Yeah.
But I wasn't quite.
But Impact Hub has now gone on to something called Civic Square, so it's still the team is still there. It's just they don't not affiliated to Impact Hub, the Impact Hub network anymore. Sorry, go on, Sean.
Well, no, I was about to go on and say exactly that they're now working on a thing called Civic Square, which the whole notion of the idea of the agora, the open space where the community meet, intrigues me greatly, and it's partially because I was always a councillor. I once got told off when I was a borough district councillor for Sefton by a nun who said to me, "I've got a bone to pick with you." And I said, "Oh, what's that?" And she said, "You're doing too much." And I said, "What do you mean you're doing too much?" She said, "One of the reasons why you're so popular and why you get these huge queues at your weekly surgeries," and I was running 2, maybe 3 a week, right in the heart of Bootle, one of the most deprived wards in Europe. She said, "You're doing too much for them." She said, "You're essentially, they're dependent upon you. You write the letters, they tell you what the problem is, and you write the letters. You should be teaching them how to write the letters." And of course, it was such a sort of road to Damascus experience. Of course, she was absolutely right. They were purely dependent. And my role was to give them the voice rather than for me to voice on their behalf. And I've held that view ever since. So
Dennis,
Yeah,
there's if you haven't heard of any other Unconferences, it's got another name of it. It's got a posh name as well, like Open Participation or Open Democracy.
Open space, yeah.
Open space, that's right.
Mm.
The Scottish Rural Parliament was run along these lines mostly. If you heard of that a few years ago.
I've vaguely heard of open
Yeah.
space, but I mean, it may be. I mean, there's various things call themselves open space, so maybe
Yes.
it's different. But,
Sean and Dennis, are you on Twitter? Because I was going to tweet
I am.
as well. Sean,
Yes,
who
I
are you
am.
on Twitter?
At Formby Village.
Formby Village, okay.
I've been a bit.
St. George.
Sorry, John. What, John?
I've been a bit distracted because I've been trying to get Simon Finch in, and I think if you're watching, Simon, I've sent you a link DM on Twitter. I'm not 100% sure it's the right link because I've been having some technical issues, but hopefully it is the right link and you can use it to get into this. If it's not, let me know and I'll. For some reason, I was trying to copy it from our Facebook message, but for some reason it kept copying a Facebook link rather than the actual Zoom link. But I think
It did
we've
that
got
to me when I was trying to get Dennis in as well. I don't know what was going on.
Is everybody okay if I take a photograph and tweet that?
Oh
You're
yes, of course.
welcome.
Excellent.
welcome.
Okay, so if you put
Photo
your
face,
your best
cheese.
Zoom face on, Dennis. We can't really. Yeah, Dennis, if you hold your pose like that, that'd be great. Okay, and let me just get from the side so I can be in as well. And okay, I'll tweet one of those. Thank you.
brilliant.
yeah, I try to avoid Twitter. I've got a Twitter account, but I don't know.
If there's anything that comes up on the Twitter feed, Dennis, I'll pass it to you on Facebook.
Right. Okay, so Simon Finch is coming in now. He's the guy who's used Facebook Portal with his dad.
Oh, brilliant.
So I am just trying to bring him into the meeting now.
We should have a piece of somebody joining music.
There will be jingles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course, if anybody would like to help us out by writing jingles for us, then that would be
some thought. That's some thought.
Yeah, it was my women's group yesterday who I meet with on a. I was telling John this about this earlier. I started meeting with them online when the lockdown happened, and we meet now every Sunday evening on at 6:30 for an hour, and we started using 8x8, which is like a free version of a video conferencing, and it wasn't so good. Now we've paid for a Zoom. My company has paid for Zoom, and so we're using that. It was a much better quality of call yesterday, but we've tried Skype and 8x8, I think, and I think Skype and 8x8 were the main ones, and they worked variously well. So, but yesterday somebody started talking about Portal, so I'll be very interested to hear what Simon has to say about it.
Okay, well, he's sort of in, but he's got no camera or audio at the moment.
Oh, okay.
So we'll see.
Has anybody else looked at Portal?
No.
Only on the telly.
Yeah.
Is this supposed to be very useful for folk that just don't like tech? I mean,
yes.
I thought it was. So, I mean, if you've got sort of an elderly relative, that is it a kind of one button thing, or what is it? And what do you need to sort of
It is, yes.
Is
Simon will be able to tell us
device?
this.
Yeah.
Simon's got direct experience of it, so when he comes in, hopefully he'll be able to tell us. But at the moment, for some reason, he's in just with a black
screen.
screen.
For a headset. That's what he's doing. He's searching for a headset on a desktop machine.
Is he?
Or
this is the other thing I wondered. So many people join these calls and they don't have headsets or even earbuds. Have you, Sean and Dennis, have you investigated using earbuds, or does it not work? I wondered for my mother, especially as well in her 80s, would it be better to try and encourage her to use a connected connection? Or I see yours, Dennis. Yeah.
I've used the system, and I find it the easiest to use, to be honest. But I have also used headphones and a microphone. But I found that when I wanted to share something to the rest of the family, they couldn't hear it because I was using the microphone on the headset, and so it actually restricted what I could actually share. So I've just reverted back to straightforward interacting with the screen in front of you.
Yeah.
I think for one-to-one calls, it doesn't make an awful lot of difference usually whether you're using headphones or not using headphones. For one-to-many calls, the more people are on headphones, the better the overall call, because
Yeah.
otherwise you get random bits of not quite cancelled feedback cancelling each other out and making burbly noises in the background. There's no problem today, but it's a general point. If there are a lot of people on a call, you kind of need to use headphones or very aggressively mute yourself when you're not talking.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Yeah, my family, or my wife's family, because I married into them, there were 10 of them, as I said before, and I'm number 11, so I was the first one to marry in, and I'm known uniformly as number 11. But you've got to be pretty aggressive to get a word in edgeways. But what's been interesting is that it didn't take very long for most people just to adapt the idea that they need to be, you couldn't compete constantly. And so they are, quite consciously taking turns. But there are 3 lads, all roughly my age, who are constantly jostling each other. And of course, in that sort of banter, it can become quite disorganized. But in my experience, I think people adapt, they learn, they recognize it's a bit like going back to old-fashioned radio, isn't it? Can you hear me?
My favorite bit of Zoom and all these similar apps is that you can harangue people by chat. I quite like that.
Right. I'm going to welcome Simon in at this point. So, Simon, thank you for joining us.
Hello.
I'm really glad you have joined us, because we were trying to talk about Facebook Portal without any of us ever having actually used it, and so that's why I was keen to get you in. So, do you want to just start by telling us a little bit about yourself?
Oh, yeah, I was born at a very early age. Yeah, I'm Simon Finch, and the way that I know John, I don't think we've met John.
No, not physically, no.
But he's a man I met on the internet, and my job is online safety. So I provide training for any adults that work with young people, ostensibly schools, but also councils, safeguarding children boards, charities, police, nurses, anybody who does that. And I do online safety. So that is about protecting young people, and then also protecting adults too, in terms of online reputation, and within that is digital citizenship and digital literacy. So John and I kind of cross over, I suppose, in the things that we do. And the reason, I suppose the input that I have today, I was interested to see that you were launching Dr. Tech, so I was kind of quietly watching over on YouTube, and then I could see, I thought, he's talking about me here. In fact, I've got a dog here that thinks it's lunchtime, so there may be blood. So I'll tell you where we're up to, if you would like to hear this, which is that
yes,
I have a complicated family. I have a father who is 93, and he has a wife who is 90. She is fit as a butcher's dog. He has lost his a year ago. They were living independently in a bungalow, and he was doing the finances for the local council, a county council thing. And he was winning at bowls. He had an allotment. He just was everything. And then he suddenly became ill and frail, and so they moved into a very nice care home. And his wife is competent, and functioning, and he is uncertain and frail. Neither of them were able to embrace technology. So given that my background was teaching, I was a computing IT teacher, so I have been setting up computers for parents for something like 30 years. And I have been teaching parents how to send texts for 30 years. And when I see the work of John, I kind of despair how can I have the parents that just cannot find the charger, whereas John seems to be surrounded by silver surfing people. So that was where my parents are. It was Dad and Betty not able to use the technology. So they're in a lockdown home. And in fact, they both were diagnosed positive last Tuesday for COVID, but with no symptoms. And we would, I just have to remain optimistic about how this is going. And I'm 40 miles away. I'm in Newcastle. They're in Teesside, Middlesbrough. And I have lots of brothers and sisters. So we would backwards and forwards. And in fact, it was my brother who mentioned the Facebook portal. And it's one of those devices that I object to strongly from my position, which is it's a one-trick pony. It feels like it's cashing in on it's a Facebook thing. You can only, you know, it is restrictive in what it does. But bugger me, it is absolutely the best thing in the world. It sits like a digital photograph, you know, thicker than a Kindle, because you can get a Kindle for less money. But it just sits there. It has to be plugged into the mains, and then we video conference via Facebook Messenger. So from their point of view, the only app that is sitting on there, it came with Alexa, and my brother was saying, "Oh, my dad will be able to use it for, you know, to get the cricket scores." And he's never going to be able to say, "Hey Alexa, what's the cricket scores?" You know, he just will throw it into confusion, and all sorts of things will happen. But at the moment, Betty will answer. It rings and she answers. And its magical thing is that it face tracks. The camera is facial track. And again, you know, from my point of view, I'm thinking, well, what's the point of that? But when you're in the room, so that my dad sits in his comfy chair in the corner, and then Betty's bloody wandering around because she's, you know, able to. When she moves out of picture, the camera zooms in and he goes full center, and the picture quality and the audio quality is magnificent. And it is just, you know, it apart from the, you know, the technology thing, I haven't seen my dad what, in 2.5 months or 3 months or something, and I honestly don't know, you know, how long he's going to be with us. So there's that. Is that right, John? Was that?
That's brilliant, Simon. Thank you for that.
So well, there's another part then, which is my mother. My parents were divorced you know, 1 million years ago, and my mother had a husband who died in 2016. And my mother was living with cancer independently, and then we must be about week 9, she collapsed and had a heart attack in the ambulance and a stroke on arriving in the hospital. And she is now paralyzed on one side and is unable to speak clearly. And she has some cognitive ability, but when I spoke to her this morning, she's backwards and forwards, you know, she's with you for a moment, and then almost like dementia, she's referring to things that happened previously. Now she is in a different care home. We can take views on this care home, but she is in a different one, and she had an iPad that my sister had bought for her. So the plan was for FaceTime. And I didn't have an iPad, so I bought an iPad. So I spent £340 on an iPad, and my mum had a second stroke and then wasn't able to speak. But within that, what you have to do for the iPad is you need to phone the care home. You need to hope that somebody will answer the phone. And these people are under great stress, you know, that all of that stuff, they're in lockdown. They've got cases there as well. And mum is high needs, you know, given that where she is with all of this. And so they then have to go into the room, and they then have to position mum and position the iPad on that trolley thing, you know, the tray that goes on top, and then I then dial in. And so there's a lot of barriers before you get to that bit that you don't have with the portal. That's why I'm referencing this. And then mum she's got some use of her right hand, and if that hand falls forward, it will knock the iPad out of position. And I have a conversation with the ceiling, and the carer has disappeared. I am endlessly phoning and saying, if it's not too much trouble, is it convenient? I appreciate it. You have all of those barriers in there. So John and I have been talking about the KOMP.
Yes.
So I didn't catch whether you talked about that today.
No, we haven't talked about that.
No.
That's one. I actually saw a demonstration of this at an event I went to at one of the London universities in December. This is one that's been developed as a digital inclusion initiative by I think they're a Dutch company. And it looks like it does everything you need it to do, because it just doesn't do the video calling. It does things like sharing photograph albums and things like that. And it's a one button sort of turn it on and off thing. But it's 600 quid.
It is £600.
Yeah,
so,
and that's the problem.
So, I mean, maybe, John, you can, it'll be easy for you to do a link so that the other members of this group can see it. Because it's quite, you know, we're on the cusp of buying one. In the end, I honestly if my parents are still alive at the end of each day, it's been a good day, because I really don't know where where this is going to be. It is a desperate situation to be in. So the £600 is neither here nor there if we can get it to work. But, and so I'm hoping this is relevant, is that the care home, as saying, the way that the KOMP works is that you can send messages. So on the screen it will say, "Hi mum, I hope you're feeling all right." So that it's just big words, it will do that. Or you could send a picture. It's not a hard drive, so you specify if the picture is going to be there for an hour or for a day, then they disappear. So you can send a picture of a child's birthday, but you can also video conference, and it counts down. So it does this 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, and then we would then appear on the screen. Now the care home staff are saying that in terms of privacy, they don't like the idea. They've got reservations about the idea of a device being in the room that can beam in without permission, without their say so at any time, because you would do that. I would do it from an app on the phone. You have a link to the device, and so then you just connect to that. And so I'm saying, well, but we'll stick a cover on it. If we talk about intimacies, about washing and about if they were needing to toilet my mum and those things, but I don't see it's beyond the ken of them that before they start that, you either turn it off or you have a pillowcase or something that goes over it. So that is a very real barrier at the moment. We're tiptoeing around the staff because we can't see the staff. All of this is by telephone, and you don't want to upset the staff and all of that stuff. And then the other part of this, we'll just get to, is I'm not sure whether mum's going to knock it over. So John, you've seen the device. I've been in touch with the KOMP people. It just is freestanding, like an Etch-a-Sketch or something.
Yeah.
I think my mum's not going to be the first person to knock one of these on the floor.
Mm.
And so I've already suggested to the company, I mean, you don't look like a smart ass, but I would have thought a rubber frame around it. I've worked in special schools for iPads, and you just put a rubber shell around it so that it will sustain a fall. I imagine it's solid state. There won't be moving anything in it, but there will be plenty. To target audience will knock them over. And in my mum's room, it has a hardwood floor for ease of cleaning. So those are the key devices. That's what I know.
To be honest with you, I think I only saw it from across the room. It looks a bit like a sort of old-fashioned portable TV.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's about that thick.
Yeah. I'm not sure how sturdy it is. Yeah, I don't think it has. I mean, obviously that is definitely going to be an issue.
It can fasten to the wall, but the care home's not going to allow that. See, I think the care home that my dad's in is a fancier place. It does look like a hotel. It's one of those, what's the word? Like there's a lot of soft furnishings, a lot of cushions, and they already have TVs on the wall, so and carpet and nice stuff. And I would imagine that they would just have that as a service, like in a hospital, which is for an extra £10 a week, you can have a KOMP on the wall, and then you can VC. Because the benefit for the home, and which I've tried to say to them, is they can then have the physio, they can have the doctors, they can have the dentist, because you just pass on the code to connect to the device. So, post-COVID, anybody will then be able to talk to the patient, to the resident, whether social services or whatever it was.
So are there concerns mainly for the fabric of the wall, or do they have privacy or confidentiality concerns? Or
it's the privacy that the staff have concerns about, that they may be in a state of undress or toileting, and somebody suddenly comes in. But you would have thought that. See, here's the. Don't get me started.
No.
It's in the end, these are just about process, aren't they? About safeguarding and about process, and they need to be fit for purpose. So given that this is anonymous, I'm not saying who it is. I'll give you an example of my concerns about their process. We've seen my mum not wearing her clothes. She's wearing somebody else's clothes.
Mm-hmm.
They label the clothes. Now, what do you think they label the clothes with? Starter for 10. What would be the logical thing to write on a label?
It's
the person's name.
Well, you would have thought they go for room number. So that means,
my goodness,
I'm guessing that my mum is wearing dead people's clothes.
Oh.
I haven't got a better way of saying that. She's in room 73, and sometimes she's wearing something with a 73 on it. And you would think that would be something that would resolve in the first 2 minutes of a meeting. And yet clearly this has been practiced for some time. And so with that as a background, it slightly gives you a context why I'm struggling to get them to see it's not difficult to manage turning it off or covering the screen before you start taking clothes off. Because my mum's not going to take her own clothes off, she can't move. So it's not going to come dialing in when, when she's walking to the toilet, she can't go anywhere. So that's where I'm up to, the 3 devices. The Facebook portal, or the other bit on that was sitting on about £75 forever, and has gone up to 130. And get your little petition going for whose bright idea that was to double the price during lockdown, because that's the kind of tech that has been flying up.
That's a really, really interesting set of, well, it's not just an example, it's a whole kind of melee of things, and it just really does underline. I mean, I work for the local authority here in Orkney. We're actually one of the very few local authorities who run all of our care homes in-house. They all actually belong to and are run by us, basically because the market is so small that there's no money in it for anybody else at all. It's just pure risk. So we are probably, as IT people in the council, more involved in that sort of thing than perhaps IT people in many other councils would be, because you kind of expect the independent private homes to sort that sort of thing out sort of independently and privately, that being the point of their existence, surely. But even here, and I mean, that's a particularly stark example of how much all this tech stuff relies on the general quality of experience for the resident, shall we call it?
Yeah.
I mean, we've even got that here between our 2 or 3 examples. There are some, I can't remember what they're called, site managers, I'm going to call them, because I can't remember what the proper word is, who will go to the nth degree to make sure that something like that would work, and be able to find the member of staff that would be able to take care of it or not, or whatever. And there's others who will give it a go, but if it doesn't work, actually they're here to run a care home, not
more
to
work for us. You've just added another thing for us to do.
Yeah. And you can it's very hard to judge people in that role on that in a single individual case, but then you start to think about the numbers of people that they have and the things that they do and the things that they don't do.
This is, and John will be the same as me, is that this has been my work for forever, I can only work on, you have to have the highest expectation of people, because I work in schools where or all the councils, where the technical support are either barriers or facilitators, and there's hardly ever a middle ground. They either see the teachers or the council employees as the enemy, or they see them as their job is to make their lives better, and that, which is,
we'd have to run a poll among our user community to see which we really are, of course, but
and, people just, and you just have to help them. That's all it is.
Simon, when you say you've helped parents over the last 30 years, do you mean your own parents or other people's parents as well?
Others. Originally I was a teacher, and I'm probably still am a teacher. I don't know. I was a teacher, secondary teacher, and then I became a local authority advisor for ICT, for computers, during the 90s. And then through the noughties, I was facilitating online learning platforms, and that was extensively with schools. And then we branched from about 2010, so that my work it was called e-safety, but it's online safety is really a better description of it. And then I ended up being freelance because all of the local authority money disappeared. So I was freelance from 2017. So I do a lot of work with parents of children at schools, but I also do a lot of the foster carers. And previously, this like the childminder groups that work for Bernardo's, and it's pretty much anybody who has a reach to young people and is online too. And then there's companies and
I've started doing some work with parents in a local primary school as well, and parents concerned about their children on social media and stuff, and yeah, so yeah, hoping to do some more of that. John, are we in the last few minutes of the show?
We are, unless we don't.
Don't
The
want to
glory
crash
of
the
doing
pips.
the glory of doing
Pips.
the glory of doing it this way is we can take as long as we want. But I think an hour is quite a good one, and I'd like to thank everybody for making this probably 1,000 times better than I thought it was going to be. We might just be sitting here, the three of us, twiddling our thumbs and hoping somebody will join it. And I'd particularly like to thank Sean, Dennis, and Simon for joining us.
Thank you.
That was a fabulous story, Simon. And we can only hope that your mum and dad, are going to get better.
Yeah, of course. Thank you. And everybody else. There's so many other people in the same position.
Yeah, exactly. Just picking up something that you said, Sweyn, about the care homes in Orkney. I mean, I know NHS England have started a programme fairly recently about trying to get care homes connected. I'm not quite sure what's happening in Scotland, and I'm not quite sure how extensive the programme in England is, but things are starting to happen.
The only thing that I know about isn't to do with care homes. It's to do with enabling 9,000 of the most vulnerable people in Scotland, however that's defined, to have access to devices and connectivity to get online. But I'm not aware of anything specific in care homes. But that's not to say it's not happening.
Right. Okay. Right. Well, then maybe that's something we can pick up next time we get together, which may be next Monday, depending on how well I've recovered from my operation this Thursday. But if not, it'll be the Monday following. But again, I'd just like to thank all of you for joining in. Thank you for everybody who's watched, and to people who are watching back on YouTube, because it won't all be live. And just a warning to everybody who wasn't with us at the beginning. I'm about to play the theme music now, so if you want to leave or it might be quite loud. But thank you for joining, and we'll see you all again next time.
Thanks, John.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
It's a good bit.